Hello, everyone. It's time for Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanas. This is episode 292, season 12. Today's date is January 2nd, 2024, and welcome to the program. Happy New Year, everybody. And I'm so excited. This is our first program for 2024. So a lot of good things coming up this year. On today's program, I'm going to talk about WGN Channel 9 reporter John Hogan. He just passed away last month. And I would talk about my memories of him and his biographies. Also, I'll talk about comedian Shecky Greene. He just passed away as well. I'll talk about my memories of watching him on television. He's from the Chicagoland area. Also, I will talk about Mama Batt's Restaurant that was located in the city of Chicago. I'll talk about its history, and I have a menu of that place. Okay. Right now, the program will go into a commercial break. And this program is brought to you by Le Menu Frozen Dinners from Swanson. I remember these very well. I remember the commercials. They were so elegant, very suave. It was the 80s, folks. Everything was very, how would I say it? Ritzy, a lot of glamorous, very glamorous decade. Okay, so here's a commercial from 1985. Yeah, so sit back and relax, and I'll be right back with the program, folks. Thank you.
A fine wine is a perfect balancing of taste. So is a fine dinner. Le Menu. Each Le Menu has 3 carefully orchestrated foods, like beef sirloin tips in mushroom and wine gravy, seasoned O'Brien potatoes, and broccoli with cheddar cheese sauce. Le Menu frozen dinners from Swanson. So extraordinary, you dare serve them with a vintage wine.
Head to Whole Foods Market to jumpstart your January during our New Year boosting event with savings on feel-good favorites store-wide. Save on organic picks, wellness staples, and more all month long.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial for Le Menu Frozen Dinners from Swanson. I remember this very well. I used to watch the commercials. That was during the 80s, during the decade of decadence, like when Dynasty was on, the TV show. And that they mentioned the whatchamacallit again, the beef sirloin tips. That sounds pretty good. I don't like mushrooms, so I wouldn't eat that. Anyway, that I don't know when it started. Maybe about in the early 80s, something like that. But they had other dinners. For example, they had chicken breast Florentine. I think that's with spinach. Vegetable lasagna. Oh, that sounds good. Chicken cordon bleu. That sounds good. And the side dish for that, they had baby carrots and rice pilaf. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Yeah. And they had fish. They had flounder fillet with like that. So it sounds great. It really sounds wonderful. I don't know when it stopped. Maybe about in the late 80s. They discontinued that. So that's a shame, But we still have frozen dinners. I remember Lean Cuisine. I used to eat that. I don't know if it's still around. I haven't seen it lately. Or haven't paid close attention to it, but yeah, but Le Menu, you know, I totally forgot about it until I saw it on YouTube, the commercial, and I go, oh wow, I haven't seen that in ages, so I might as well play it. Okay, so that's good. All right. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned I'm going to talk about reporter John Hogan. He used to work on WGN Channel 9 in Chicago. Also, comedian Shecky Greene and Mama Batt's Restaurant. Before I get started, I want to mention a couple of things. One, this New Year, I had a great New Year's. I felt a little tired again, just by the medicine, with the extendy. So I'm much better now, but like last week, I just lie down most of the time. So it's like, ooh, it's terrible. It's at night that's worse. So I just go to bed. It's just awful. But health-wise, I'm doing fine. Everything is okay. I won't go to the doctors till next month, and like February and March. So I got time with that. And let's see what else is happening. Not much really. So it's been quiet on social media. So we're going to start with the new year with some. I'm going to find new stuff to post. Or just repost other things I haven't done in years, so people can rediscover my page, and also like to listen to my podcast. If you like to listen to my podcast, go to YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel, Van Chicagoland Stories. Hit subscribe, and you can listen to the current one or some past episodes. There was one person that mentioned, but this is audio. Yeah, I know. I haven't done a video one yet. I don't know. That might be a little tough for me to do. That will take a little time, but we'll see. Other people have asked me, when are you going to have a guest on your podcast? I do this solo. Someday I will. I have one person, actually two people are in that I've contacted. They're interested, but we'll see. It depends on their schedules, but we'll see about that. We have to make some arrangements, But I'm ready. It depends on them. So that'd be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. I don't know how to do that. It will take a little time to work this out. We'll see. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start with reporter John Hogan. He worked at WGN Channel 9 in Chicago for many years, and he started in about in the early 60s, around 1962, something like that, and he just right out of college. He worked there, which is amazing. He started like around when Bozo Circus started, like that. And he was, very young and very energetic. And he was like, he also did news reports on the radio as well. And he was, when he was a reporter, he was on the scene wherever things were happening. He was right there, just like what they do now. Yeah. His assignments for over the years were, like, for example, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, he visited Santa's visits at local schools. Oh, that sounds nice, like that. Also, the trial of mass murderer Richard Speck. That was in 1966. That was awful like that. Someone asked me if I should do a podcast episode about that. That's a little controversial, but I'll give it some thought. That's very heavy-handed. Also, there was the corruption trial of Governor Otto Kerner. At the time, when my mom became an American citizen, she received a letter from him, at the time when she became an American citizen. And we still have that letter. And that's very, she cherishes that, even though what happened to him, but that's okay because that was something special. Also, he uh, covered the airline crashes at O'Hare and Midway. Also, the Democratic National Convention in 1968. That's my father worked at the Conrad Hilton Hotel on Michigan Avenue, and this happened at Grant Park, right across the street. And my dad was working at the time, and he was sort of oblivious what's going on, because my dad didn't watch the news. He watched the news when he was at home, but he didn't know what was going on over there. I guess nobody told him, or he didn't understand. So my mother had to explain. It's like that later on. Excuse me. And also, he was there he was the first reporter where Richard J. Daley passed away, and he was died in his doctor's office in 1976, and he was right there. It was amazing, and I think he was there when they had the. Do you remember in 1977 where the Chicago L crash and like it teetered over the tracks? That was hard, and I think he was there at the time. So like that. Also, he served time as an environmental editor and reported topics like pollutants, smog that happened in the Lake Michigan and the Chicago River. And he was also he did periodically. He was at the Chicago Blackhawks games, and he was the public address announcer. And he announced Bobby Hull's 500th career goal. Wow, that was a moment, a historical moment that happened. Of course, he interviewed a lot of people during that time. He interviewed former presidents, Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, also Jimmy Carter, also other like Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr. He did that. And he was there at a news conference where the Beatles came to town in 1966. They stayed at the Astor Tower Hotel. And that's where John Lennon says that the band was popular than Jesus. So, yeah, I don't know why that happened. I don't know. Anyway, he stayed with the station until 1978, and then he became director of media relations and employee communications for ComEd, which is great. I guess he had enough of that, which so that's great. And then he became an author. And then he retired in 1997, and he co-authored the book Fire Strikes the Chicago Stockyards. This is a history of the Chicago Fire Department, and it that dealt with sometimes like these heroic battles against flames, when like big, huge fires in Chicago, especially in stockyards. That was published in 2013. He followed with another book called Steel Strike, Blood on the Prairie. So he also published other books and like that, and also he had some other ones. So he was very busy. I don't know if he was interviewed on television later on. I have no idea. Like that. As a kid, I remember seeing him. On Channel 9. I think mostly at night. Sometimes during the daytime. It depends whatever news event was occurring. And there he was, But I'm surprised because when I posted this on social media, I haven't heard not much about people. I guess a lot of people forgot about him or remembered he was a reporter back then. But he was there when a lot of Chicago events took place, and So that's a shame, but to me, he seemed like a very nice man. He really was, and very good at his job, and that's wonderful. And I asked my brother when I talked to him over the weekend. He lives in California, and I told him, "Do you remember John Hogan?" He goes, "Yes, I remember him. I do remember him." Yeah. So when WGN did their 75th anniversary, they did honor him, and like most reporters, he was shown. So that's great. That's wonderful. Because he worked for the station for years. So that's a honorable thing to do. Okay. So my deepest condolences to his family. Um, so he passed away December 10th, and after complications following heart surgery, and he was 82. So that's it. So again, my deepest sympathies to the family, and you know, he was beloved by the Chicago media and his fans. So that's nice. Okay. All right. Right now, I'm going to talk about comedian Shecky Greene, which he passed away on New Year's Eve, and he was 97 years old. Wow, that's a long. He lived a long age, and I totally forgot about him. And I remember watching him on television and a couple movies, but mostly it was TV. So I'll give you a biography of him. Uh, he was born in Chicago, April 8th, 1926. His real name was Fred Sheldon Greenfield, and he graduated at Sullivan High School, way up in around the Rogers Park neighborhood, I believe, or is it Edgewater, like that? And he started, doing his acts, and he was a nightclub comedian. He did perform. Mostly, he performed in Las Vegas, but he did perform in Chicago whenever he was in town, and he did perform at Mr. Kelly's and also at Chez Paul. Yeah, so that's great. And whatever venue was available, whenever venue was available, there he was. And so let's see. And let's see. So he originally was going to become a gym teacher, but he was performing stand up at nightclubs, and so he started his career not in Chicago, but in New Orleans. It was a place called the Preview Lounge. And then he went to Miami, then he went to Lake Tahoe, and he did so he did a lot of touring like that. And in his first, then he started working at the Tropicana Hotel in 1957 in Las Vegas. I think it's still there. Then he started on television. And then he played at Carnegie Hall in New York, and then he appeared in Ed Sullivan's show. According to the internet, he didn't like that, because according to him, they just put you on and then they take you off. It's like this like that. And he put on television. If you remember the TV show Combat, I used to watch that on Channel 9 and Channel 44 for a while in the 70s. This was in the 60s, the show. He played Private Braddock for one season. He did that. And he also, he appeared in a lot of shows. And then he also served as a guest host for The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. And he also appeared as a guest host on the Merv Griffin Show. So that's great. I remember seeing him. I remember seeing that. He would do a stand-up routine, and then, he will host the show. And let's see. Also, he appeared on game shows, match games, Tattletales. let's see. So he appeared other in Las Vegas. He appeared in other hotels, casinos like the MGM Hotel that opened in 1975, and D. Martin was a headliner, and like that. And he continued to perform like that. Over the years, he suffered like panic attacks and stage fright, and he couldn't perform, so he just backed out and just. But he returned in some times to do that. And let's see, there's about a couple of interviews that he did. It's on YouTube. If you watch him, he will talk about his life and his also his his problems like that. So I've listened to a couple. There was a record album. I forgot the name of it, and I've listened to a few of the tracks, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. It does reference Chicago a lot, so that's great. Okay, other TV shows he appeared in movies. For example, he appeared on in the movies there was Tony Rome that was starred Frank Sinatra. Also, The Love Machine that was with that was Jacqueline Suzanne based on her novel. Love American Style. He appeared on The Love Boat, which I remember very well. Fantasy Island. Also, History of the World Part 1. His name was Marcus Vindicus. I remember that. Also, he appeared on Laverne and Shirley, one of the last episodes of the series. Excuse me. I think that was the one where Frank DeFazio ran for councilman, and that was his opponent. So he did that, and he appeared in 2 episodes of The Fall Guy. He was also in the movie Splash with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks. Also appeared in The A-Team, Trapper John M.D. He appeared on Roseanne. Mad About You. Oh boy, so that's great. I liked him. He was a funny man. He really was. So that's a shame. I think he was one of the last nightclub comedians from that era. A lot of them are gone. They really are. I think there was one before, like Marty Allen. Remember him with the hair? That's probably the last. He was the one before that. But there were others. So that's a shame. Okay. Right now, I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to talk about Mama Batt's Restaurant. I'll be right back, folks. Thank you.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope. And sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. So right now, I'm going to talk about Mama Batt's Restaurant. Now, this restaurant, it was a Jewish. It was a offered Jewish specialties. To had a great menu. I'll give you a little history of that. Okay, so that was the restaurant was first located on 112th East Cermak Road in Chicago, right near McCormick Place, and so it was really at Cermak in Michigan, and it opened in 1929 by Tilly and Harry Batt. And and for years they operated on the ground floor at what was once the Lexington Hotel, and later on it turned into the New Michigan Hotel. And that's where Al Capone lived at the time. I think this is where they found the vault. I'm trying to remember 1986, with Geraldo Rivera. They made a big fanfare and a lot of media coverage, and all they found, I remember, all they found was like a couple empty bottles. I think trying to unearth Al Capone's treasure. Well, none of that happened. I remember when they build this up. It was hilarious, I think. And then it was run by, later on. It was run by their children, Sam and Nathan, and they served, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They had a cocktail lounge. They had a coffee shop. So I wish I went to this place. It sounds wonderful. And so you had a lot of wonderful things on the item. For example, they had Hungarian goulash, homemade soups, beef brisket, corned beef, steaks, chops. All delicious things on the menu like that. And then, so the attraction was this place was any events that happened in McCormick Place, or if there was a football game at Soldier Field, or if there was a baseball game at Comiskey Park, either before or after, when that happened, when the games were over or they were starting, people would just drop by and just have a meal. It sounds great. Also, celebrities stopped by at the time when they were performing at the Erie Crown Theater. And, like, for example, Jerry Lewis, Perry Como, Danny Thomas, this is according to the Chicago Tribune. And the best part of the restaurant, they had a huge parking lot, and free too. And it also provided free shuttle buses to nearby locations, so you could leave your car and you could return for lunch or for dinner and have a few drinks at the restaurant. That sounds great, and sounds wonderful. Okay. So the hotel closed about in 1980, and then the building was demolished around the mid 90s, and right now it's an apartment building called Arrive Lex. Okay. So that went away. So right now, let's see what else. So I have the menu of the Mama Batt's. It's a theater dinner package. So it includes the package includes like dinner, parking, transportation from the theater. The shuttle left every half hour before the show, and then they pick you up and leave you off, which sounds great. Sounds wonderful. And the dinner includes appetizers, soups, entree, salad, choice of potato, whatever you want. Something to drink, choice of beverage. Also appetizers, like, for example, chopped liver and chopped herring. Not a big herring fan. The soups they served were mostly matzo ball soup, which I love, or chicken kreplach. How does that spell? Kreplach. I never had that, but it sounds good. But matzo ball soup I love. So on the menu, I'm sure it has changed over the years when it was in business. For example, they had sweet and sour meatballs with potato pancake. Ooh, that sounds good. Baked short ribs or beef with oven brown potato. Probably baked potato, I guess. I don't know. Roast biscuit or beef. That sounds good. Pepper steak a la Batt's. Baked chicken with dressing. Sweet and sour stuffed cabbage rolls. Also prime New York sirloin steak. And also broiled Lake Superior whitefish. And you had your choice of dressing for your salad, like, for example, Thousand Island, French garlic, or their Batt's special. I don't know what that was. Probably something different like that. Of course, the choice of potatoes, you had baked, French fries, or mash, just like you have whatever your choice you need. Also, beverages, coffee, tea, and milk. I'm sure they had liquor or beer if you wanted to, but no. But this sounds like an amazing place. A lot of people mentioned this on my Van Chicagoland page many times. You know, they love the food. They miss the place so much. You know, Jewish cuisine is hard to find in Chicago. I know there's Manny's Deli, which I've never been yet. I like to go. I heard their corned beef sandwiches are huge like that. I love corned beef. So usually when I get matzo ball soup, I go to Omega. That's a Greek-owned restaurant. They have one in Morgan Grove or Niles, Downers Grove. There's one in Lombard. You know, they're pretty good. I like it. So Matt's, Mama Batt's, that is not Matt's. Was very famous, one of a kind, and very popular to most Chicagoans. You know, to get a nice hot meal. Before an event or after an event. Or even holidays. You make reservations. You just do that. I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people, but maybe but something I don't know if they have these today. Like if you go to a Bears game or to Comiskey Park, right now it's Guaranteed Field. So if you have a shuttle to go places, I don't know if they do that. No idea, because Comiskey Park. They have concession stands and also Soldier Field, I'm sure. I've never been to Soldier Field. So everything's changed. And then their menus have changed dramatically over the years like that, and there's more choices. And so that's great, to keep the public interested. So that's nice to hear and what they're doing. And we'll see. All right. That is it for this program. I'll do a quick recap of what I talked about. I talked about TV reporter John Hogan, who worked at WGN Channel 9 in Chicago. Also comedian Shecky Greene, and also Mama Batt's Restauran. This podcast will be published later on today. Wherever podcasts are available, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think Google Podcasts went away. I'm not sure. Google's doing something weird and different. I don't know, because I got an email from them. We'll see what that's about. Also, Spotify, of course, will be there. Amazon Music, Breaker, Overcast. So if you hit one of those apps on your phone, on your tablet, or whatever device you have, just follow me for my podcast, and you'll get a notification for a new episode. Also, it'll be on my YouTube channel, Van Chicagoland Stories. I mentioned this earlier in the program. If you hit subscribe, you get a new episode. People ask me, where do I find your podcast? Where do I find your podcast? The best way is go on YouTube. A lot of people like that. They find it easier. A lot of people are not technology. How would I say that? Tech savvy. That's it. They're not very good at that. So I try to help. I try to help everyone. Also, be sharing on my social media accounts: Facebook, X, Reddit, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads. They'll be there. Also be on my blog, vanchicagoland.blog. Okay, so this is Pete Castanas, your host for Van Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope everyone will have a safe, happy, healthy 2024. I hope so for myself. Last year wasn't bad. It was okay. I hope this will be better. So here's bye-bye for me, and here's a little traveling music from Ray Rayner saying bye, bye, bye. Take care, everyone, and so long.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.